Hello and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for 2019. Jingle, 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 jingle. Because I like the jingle. Because I'm keeping the jingle. Just for a little bit anyway. Let's turn the way back clock to a little bit way back. Well, not that far way back. Say about September. The end of September last year. The year of our Lord 2018, and there was an isle, and there was actually a summoner's isle, but there was a gentleman who he was a man, or some people might say he was a mun. It was Robbie Munn who joined us to have a chat about Summoner's Isle at the time that went on to fund quite well, like pretty much kind of like 4 times its target, and at the time we had a really, really quick chat, and so I said at the time, we'll get Robbie back on, just like to have a catch up and just a general chinwag. So I'm delighted that he is back on. So hello, Robbie.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm very good.
It's good to be back on.
I'm delighted to have you back on. It's good fun. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of one of those intrepid. I get really nervous about talking, but I've also been looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's like 2019, and it's like, well, what could happen? What's out there? Let's see what happens. So I think it's fair to say that 2018 kind of finished up for you in a good place, because the Kickstarter kind of funded. There was a lot of people who were singing the praises of Summoner's Isle, and it kind of caught up with the imagination of quite a few people. And there was a lot of people saying some really, really nice things about it, to the point of, as I said, you kind of got the funding kind of in. Where are you with the project just now? I mean, now that we're kind of into January, what kind of stage are you at just at the moment?
It's you're right. It totally blew me away, the response that I got in last year. I was always hopeful that it would fund, but I never expected it to fund quite as well as it did, and it meant we could seriously unlock a lot of extra goodies, which was never going to be in the original game without the extra funding. So that was quite nice. And none of the stretch goals were sort of ever planned to be there until we actually got over that mark, and I was like, all of a sudden scratching my head going, oh, right, we can actually do this now. The manufacturing's been good. There's been a few delays. I'd say, 3 delays so far, but they're all hurdles that we've got over. The current hurdle is getting it out of China, actually. It's been sitting at the port, Yanatin, I think. I'm probably not pronouncing it right. Sitting at the port in China for the last week and a half, just waiting for the boat. So it's kind of every day I keep checking the app to see what's going on, see where the boat is, and the boat is there. And then I've got a message this morning, and I was expecting it to say, all your games have been loaded on. But unfortunately, it was a message to say, oh, that boat's full, you're going to get the next one.
Oh, you're joking me.
So it's going to be loaded on early next week rather than this week. So it's only put us back a week. But along with the other delays, it's kind of put us back almost a month. But I gave myself a month's grace within the original plan. So it's still looking good for March. It might just be end of March rather than early March.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty fantastic considering the kind of the current landscape with a lot of kind of Kickstarters where people are kind of waiting kind of 6 months plus on terms of delays and stuff like that for the kind of games the game's kind of getting in. What was the experience like with the manufacturer? I mean, did you go through like a process of selecting, kind of auditioning, I guess, kind of like 2 or 3 different people?
It became quite painful in the end. It's because you go through recommendations, you ask other people like who have they used, and everyone recommends their own manufacturer. Very few actually had anything bad to say about anybody, which was really nice. It seems like the game industry good vibe does extend to the manufacturers as well, which is nice. But I was really torn between using a European manufacturer which could do the turnaround much quicker, and deliver it on time. And I knew the quality would be really good because I've seen their product before and it was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Or spend half as much and wait longer and do it in China. And it was literally almost twice the price doing it locally. But then saying that, things crept in, things we weren't expecting, or I wasn't expecting, because probably through my inexperience, things get creeping in, and that price kept going up and up a little bit, to the point where now I'm thinking, with all the delays, I could have had the game a month earlier, and spent just a bit more rather than twice as much. So it's kind of give and take. It's been a really good learning experience. So for my next project, I'm sort of again exploring all the avenues, exploring locally and companies in Asia, and even a company in the Netherlands, which I'm approaching, just to see what the landscape is for like a really small box game, because it might be totally different for that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, have you looked at even like the UK, or is it just nobody that you'd be able to kind of reach out to?
The only company I've really heard about in the UK was CONTINUAL.
I'm aware of them through a professional, through my day job.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. Well, I hear they do really good cards, and if you've got a card game, there's no problem using them at all. They'll give you a good price, and turnaround's really good, and communication's really good. But if you're doing a board game, they're really expensive, or from what I've wanted anyway. So yeah, it's not even worth considering at the moment.
I mean, is that always going to? Do you think that's always going to be the kind of the main fact for pushing out to China? Because the number of Chinese manufacturers, I'm sure it's growing on a day-by-day basis. I think people are seeing kind of like the board game industry as a multi-million, multi-billion, is it? Whoa. Potentially now?
Maybe.
In Kickstarter itself, they're saying that board games gave Kickstarter a massive revenue in 2018, more than anything else. In fact, they also said that video games themselves actually dropped in terms of... Yeah, I was reading that yesterday, I think, that they said that the revenue based on previous years, video games seem to have dropped a reasonable amount, and board games seem to kind of keep climbing. I don't know if it's still the same kind of normal ratio where the actual number of successful projects is the same. It's just that board games seem to be taking in kind of more and more money. But I think
I wonder if that's related to video games being a lot more downloadable these days.
Yeah, but I also think it's because video games are generally more expensive.
Well, I don't know.
I think that... yeah.
You look at a lot of the Kickstarter games, you're looking at $100 to $150 for the base game.
Yeah, but I think I'm thinking about development costs.
Oh, yeah, development costs, yes. Massively, yeah.
I think, I saw the thing for, was it Shenmue 3? And the guy kind of went on there and says, they got a couple of million, and then they had to go back and say, well, I wonder if we need to maybe do a little bit of extra funding to kind of pay the developers. So I think the problem with video games is that there's not kind of like an easy way to cut corners, I guess. You can if you promise a certain amount of content, there's not kind of like, let's go for the slightly cheaper kind of card option, or let's go for the slightly different kind of version of resin, or you have to plump for the smaller dice, or maybe not have the full colour kind of rulebook. I reckon, board games still allows you a little bit of flexibility, and I think there's been massive delays on video games compared to obviously, but I mean, there's obviously been a couple of hits in board games where you're like your Ninja Division, I think, with their disappearing. We need funds of 80,000 to make this work. Actually, we needed 400,000 in order to pay the wages and cost, and you're just like, okay, so you never actually, your target was never actually would have got the game made if you had just funded. Yeah. So where's that coming from? But no, but as I say from you, I mean, you've obviously, I mean, it's China still sounds like an attractive place to do the kind of the manufacturing business then. Well,
at the moment, Europe is more attractive,
right?
But it all depends on the price. I suppose I think the price kind of scares you, because most people doing this sort of thing in the level I'm doing it at, they're doing it when they're sitting on the train in the evenings, or whilst everyone else has gone to bed, you sit up and keep your developing going. So it's any way you can save some money, then it's worth doing. But I don't know. I mean, it all comes down to price, I suppose. If I could get it like a third, even if it was a third more expensive than China, I'd probably do it in Europe then. Because you just know you're going to get it a lot quicker. You don't have to pay the import taxes. Well, maybe. I don't know what's going to happen yet, do we?
I know.
But you shouldn't have to pay the import taxes. It's going to get here within weeks rather than a month on the ship. And then having to deal with the port issues and everything else. So it can knock off a good 3 months just by doing it locally and save yourself a lot of aggro. And then the opportunity to actually go out and see the factory is actually much more possible as well, because a flight to Germany is a lot cheaper than a flight to China.
Yeah, I mean, is that tempted to actually kind of, I guess, kind of seal the deal and go out and see them?
Yeah, it'd be lovely. It'd be nice to see where the games are made.
Go on a jolly.
I mean, the manufacturer I used for Summoners Hour, they've been really good, and they've sent me lots of pictures and videos of the process and the packing the boxes up. It's been really nice. They've really made you feel a part of it, and I can't fault them at all for that. It's only the delays that have been a bit of an issue.
I think it's part of the PR, because I think that in turn, if a factory is going to be sending you kind of pictures of the production process, then they know that they're going on Kickstarter and updates.
Yeah, it's well worth their while doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of self-perpetuating. That kind of like says, "Oh, look how thorough we are with the process." I mean, I put an update myself out the other day, just of a joke of a kind of here's some pre-production biscuits we've had made.
I saw that.
But from Tesco's, and I just kind of thought, well, I couldn't get around it. I had to kind of put it up, and obviously I was going to put up 2 pictures of 2 full biscuits, but then one accidentally fell and broke in half in my mouth, which is always kind of one of these things. In terms of community engagement, are you still maintaining the level of community engagement that you had during the kind of the Kickstarter? Is that something you consciously have to be aware of as well? I mean, are you still? I notice you are. Obviously, you're sending out kind of updates when there's something to update people on. But on things like social media, do you still feel it's a necessity to kind of just keep your head above the parapet and keep the backers aware that you still exist and you're still alive and everything like that?
Yes, and I've never really been very good at social media and doing it properly. So it's I have to force myself on there sometimes. But it's more of you do feel, and rightly so, you feel like you owe the backers, the people that have supported your campaign, evidence that you are still alive and you haven't run off with their money. So I think it's really important to keep that face, let people know that you're still working on other stuff as well. So it's not just like I'm just doing this one hit wonder and you'll never see me again. It's like you've helped me build something, so hopefully we can keep working together to build more things. But I should do better. I mean, there's so many different board game Facebook groups, and I know people that do it, and they manage to comment on every one of them every other day or every day, and hats off to them. I just wouldn't know how to do that. I kind of pick one every other day and have a little chat, and then I'll pick one another day and have a little chat. So I'm not as visual as other people, for sure. But I do like to let people know that I am still involved and I'm still doing stuff. Yeah.
But you don't want to look as like you're kind of being spammy.
No.
Or,
that's what I like about what other people do. They just go on and talk about board games, what they played at the weekend, etc. Their lives sound really interesting. Maybe I need a more interesting life. Maybe that's it. I need to play more games.
Nah, well, I think there's always an excuse that it's playing more games and stop having them as, I've so much space in my house. The best way I've found to take up space in my house is to buy little boxes of cardboard and then you'd be amazed the amount of space I can take up, because I can put these little boxes of cardboard all the way kind of around the house. In terms of, I mean, with the continued engagement though, has this allowed you to kind of, is it pushed forward your timetable for developing the next game?
Well, that's a good question, actually. It kind of has. I feel like there's an expectation now. Whereas before, I mean, the last Summoners Isle I was probably spent 2 years sort of tinkering with and ahhing whether I was going to go to Kickstarter or not. And I did approach different publishers as well. And to positive responses, even though none of them took it, I got positive responses from all of them. And that encouraged me to then go to Kickstarter.
Did you not email them and kind of go, just send them a screenshot of it being funded?
No.
You're kind of going, do you know what I mean? This could be us, but you playing. This could be us, but you playing, kind of thing. We could have been holding hands, signed a deal.
Never been fences.
You could have had my isle, but you're not. You're just going to be an island by yourself. But yeah,
we should not talk about that. You've for your next project, does that mean you think, well, I'm, if I'm engaging with people, I've got a captive audience, so maybe it's kind of like, are people sitting and waiting to see kind of what Robbie's doing next, I guess? I've not thought about it from that point of view. I don't think so. I don't think anyone's waiting. But
you'd be surprised.
It certainly made me be more aware of what I do in my spare time. So if I'm coming home on the train, it's like, do I read my book or do I rewrite these rules to make them worthwhile? It's so I kind of give myself deadlines, and sometimes I give myself frightening deadlines. Like today, I did one actually. I asked if anyone wanted to participate in a print and play of something I'm working on, and lovely. I got quite a few responses quite quickly, and I was like, oh right, so I better make this print and play then. People are waiting now. I can't do it and then not. I can't say it and then not do it. So I'm kind of forcing myself to actually keep the creative juices, making all the good stuff.
Has it also given you the confidence to take, other projects you maybe dismissed before back out of the drawer and say, well, maybe this is also something I can kind of look at? Have you kind of thought about that? I mean, is it? Yeah. In a weird way, that's kind of what happened, but not for that reason. Right. Okay.
My next project was always going to be a game called Death by Dungeon, which is a card-laying game where each card that you turn over is a separate room, and there'll be something in that room that is trying to kill you. And once you survive the room, you've got to go to the next room. And it's a 1 to 6 player game, so it's quite open in that sense. And within the rooms, all the various different dungeons, there'll be some doors, and in other rooms there'll be keys. And once you find a key, you've got to find a door, but you might not find the right door to the right key, etc., etc. It's going to be one of those games where, hopefully, it's fun, but you should hardly ever win. It should be Death by Dungeon almost every time, but it should be a good fun process doing it. But it's a lot of work. I've got to make at least 150 cards or dungeons to make it work how I want it to work. And I want it to be as varied as possible and have multiple sort of avenues and different ways to play it. And each character has its own benefit and negative as well. So it should be very replayable, but it means a lot of work. So that was what I was going to concentrate on until I was at a convention in, I'm going to say Broadstairs, I hope I got that right, Uncon. And I was talking to some other publishers there about this other game that has been on the back burner for ages. It started out as you're a bunch of amoebas trying to fight it out in a primordial soup, and the strongest amoeba wins. And it was using dice in a sort of rock, paper, scissors, lizard spot type scenario. And it was very complicated. It took a lot of math to get 4 dice to have 7 icons on, but evenly spread out. Was it 8 icons? 9 icons, evenly spread out, amongst the 4
It's
dice.
the Spanish Inquisition of icons.
It's just a bit, and it worked. It just wasn't fun.
Yeah.
And I took it to this convention because I thought, okay, I don't think this worked. I don't think this is a game. I think this is just a mechanic, and I can potentially use this in another game. But the whole thing was inspired by I wanted to make a dice game that you can take out at any point, have in your pocket, have in your bag, a bit like zombie dice.
Yeah.
And that was my challenge originally. Make a game that's so easy you can take out anywhere, use it, put it away, use it as a filler game in between other stuff, but make it light and fun. So I took it to convention and showed it a few people, and we all concluded at the end of the day it wasn't a game. And I was like, great, I can stop thinking about this now. This is brilliant. I can just put it aside and just concentrate on Death by Dungeon. And I was driving home, and it suddenly dawned on me that if I totally changed the game, but still keep some of the similar premises, I can make it work. And then on that drive home, Sumo Gnomes was born. Because what's better than sumo wrestling gnomes trying to kick each other off of a tree stump?
I was thinking, but no. No.
Right, I got really excited about it.
I think that's pretty cool.
So so within a week,
what made you come up with that though? I mean,
and then 2 weeks after UnCon, it was Dragon Meat, and then already had a prototype made, took it to Dragon Meat, and got some good feedback. So I've just been concentrating on that over Christmas and polishing that. So even though Death by Dungeon was my definitely going to do this game, it hasn't had a look in at all.
So is it just kind of lit the fire of imagination, and that's it? This is what you're doing. This is what you're kind of concentrating on.
Yeah, because I ran with it, and I kind of want to finish it before I move on. And I think I have. I think it is finished. So we'll wait and see what the playtesters say. Once the print and plays go out, I'm sure there'll be lots of things that I've missed, or maybe I could write things better, or maybe we can add in a few more moves. Yeah, it's a fun little game that can take anywhere between 2 and 8 minutes. It's not a long game. This is sumo. You're just 2 little gnomes trying to push each other around until someone wins.
How does it work then?
Very simply. So you've got 4 dice.
Mm-hmm.
I could say simply. I'm going to make it sound overcomplicated now. You've got 4 dice.
I mean, that is your prerogative to make it sound, a very simple mechanic. Yeah. But go for it.
You have 2. Your gnomes are also dice, so you've got a gnome that has a side, a back, front, and a top-down view of the gnome. So that's what you place on the board, and the board is for 8 squares, all in a kind of circle. And both start in the middle, and then you roll your dice, and you have 2 that you keep in reserve that you could potentially use for your next go, and 2 that you action there and then. So each turn you're always doing 2 things. But then when it comes down to your next go, you don't roll the reserves because you lock those. You just roll the 2 that you originally used, and then you pick again from those 4 which ones you want to lock and which ones you want to use this turn. So you're always trying to plan the next turn ahead. So right, I've pushed the gnome into that corner. So if they don't get out of that corner and I save these 2, then I've won. And then it's up to that person because they know what's coming up. They can see, okay, yeah, I've lost this. So they have to roll their dice and then choose from their reserve and their 2 actions to see what they want to do and potentially get the upper hand. Because every position on the board is quite dangerous. You could think you won, but then someone could pick you up and throw you out. It's all possible. So it's simple in its premise. And the original prototype that I took to Dragon Meat, you only had 4 actions, so it's very easy. But now you've got 8 actions, and 3 of those come about just by one of the other actions, which sounds complicated. So basically, once you grab a gnome, it opens up more options. So instead of one of the dice just being a push, it's now a shove, which means you can push them off the board. Whereas originally you couldn't do it with that dice. So once you grab someone, the other person's quite a dangerous position. They've got to try and get out of that grab, or they're going to get pushed off. But it is quite possible to grab them back in return and then throw them off yourself. So it's not all game over once you've been grabbed. It just gives you a lot more options once you grab them. Just like in Sumo, once you've got hold of their
just
belt,
like in Sumo,
it's a fight to the death. Then not to the death, but it's a struggle because okay, they've got my belt. How am I going to get out of it? You've got to wiggle out, or you're going to move out the way, or you're going to make them fall out the way, or maybe you can grab them back. They're the kind of options you get, which at the moment you can do with just a 6-sided dice, and all the dice are the same now, so it's not really complicated. It just means various combos open up new actions for you.
Is this something you could put in a tin then? One of the mint tins?
Yeah, I've designed it to fit, not quite a mint tin, I think it's too big for that. But I've designed it to fit in a box the same size as Flux.
Oh yeah.
So it's a Flux size box. It can fit in your back pocket, easy enough, or in a coat pocket. And then the board is half the size of the box and then folds out, so it becomes double the size of the box. The rules will just be a sort of a sheet of paper folded twice, so that fits in. The lid and the base, the box itself becomes your dice tray. So I'm going to think the way because I wanted it to be as portable as possible. So if you're sitting on a train and you've got one of those little flip down tables, you can easily put your board on, and then you've got your 2 dice trays either side, so your dice are going all over the place.
Yeah.
So you could take it to the pub, take it to a cafe. It's it's working quite well so far. I
mean, is this where you're going kind of with the design? Are you, after doing kind of Summoner's Isle, are you thinking of keeping things that you're doing kind of medium to lightweight games?
Well, yeah, at the moment, as Sumo Gnomes is definitely quite lightweight.
Yeah.
Death by Dungeon is probably light to medium. There is actually a follow-on game I've been working on in the background to Summoner's Isle, where you actually are summoners on the mainland. So you've graduated, you've gone to the mainland, and now you've got to close portals and stop monsters coming through, etc. But that's quite a big one. So I think I'll probably do that after Death by Dungeon. Or, if things progress, hopefully I can get some help and share the dev time with a fellow designer.
Is that, I mean, is this... There's a few things that, okay. Let's collect my thoughts back in my brain, okay? I've seen quite recently a push for people who are successful in Kickstarter to publish other people's games.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
So I'm looking at, say, Lewis Shaw at Braincrack. Cesar at Alicat Games seems to constantly have, games that he's publishing kind of other people's ideas, other people's designs. Carla Kopp, and they're doing kind of Galactic Raptor. She's in a kind of a joint venture at the moment, so that Animal Kingdom that's currently on Kickstarter. I think Steve Aramini that designed it, he's going to be coming on the show rather soon.
Really? That'd be cool.
Is that a direction would you consider doing that yourself if you had a really, really good idea and say you were at, I don't know, if you went to Dragon Meet again, or you met kind of with say Cesar, and they said, well, look, I really like the Gnome Sumo game. How about if we take it off your hands, we do a couple of things, with the art, is that something you would consider to kind of look at reducing the risk?
Yeah, definitely. And probably not for reducing the risk though. More so you can keep working on other stuff. Because I'm no artist, I'm no graphic designer. I do my best to make things look how I think they should look. And I always get compliments on what my prototypes look like, because I do put a lot of time and effort into them. If I can just hand over the idea to someone else, that's fine. Because my first game that came out, but it wasn't published by me, it was War of the Nine Realms with Rotan Games. Yeah. So very happy for other publishers to do that. And it means I can just work on new projects. That's absolutely fine. I don't think I'd ever be in a position to publish other people's games, because unlike the people you mentioned, they're doing it full time. That's kind of it is their jobs. And it's important for them to release multiple games each year and to sort of keep their business model turning over. Whereas myself, at the moment, I couldn't ever see this taking over my day job, and it's something I can do in my spare time and still have fun with it. So at most, I'd probably only ever publish one game a year.
Yeah.
But if I can publish games through other people, that's absolutely great. Yeah, definitely do that.
Is there the bigger kind of box game? I mean, is there the behemoth sitting in the back drawer somewhere that's got kind of like bastardized versions of other people's minis that you're using and stuff like that? I mean, do you have that kind of big box game kind of sitting around?
I can honestly say I don't. It's War of the Nine Realms was one of the biggest projects I worked on. It's that took a lot of brain power, and I originally was working on that with another designer. We sort of put the bulk of it together, and then when we met Lawrence at Rotan, it kind of changed into what it is now, and it changed direction, which is where I spent a lot of time just developing it to fit their model. So in a sense, we could always go back to that original idea, because it's still a really good idea, and we created a world for it. We created maps and lore for all the different races. That's all sitting on hard drives somewhere. That could be revisited, and we have talked about revisiting that a few times, but in a slightly different way. But whether it would be a big behemoth or whether it cut it down into something smaller, I'm not sure. No, I can also, apart from that, I don't think there's anything too big. Death by Dungeon is probably the biggest project I've got coming up. All the rest are quite small things.
I mean, where are you in terms of like kind of sticking in with the hobby? I mean, are you like everybody else, kind of having to turn left, right, and centre to kind of keep up with kind of the latest hotness? I mean, do you manage to get time to go ahead and kind of sit down and play yourself? Do you regularly kind of get games to the table?
Sometimes. So they've got a lovely group of friends, and we meet up every week, and we always play something. But generally speaking, we play RPGs. So Vampire the Masquerade, or
right, okay.
Pathfinder, or what else have we played? Played a few different ones actually. Tales of the Loop quite recently. Yeah, I want to get Star Wars back on the table. I haven't played that for a while, and another friend wants to get a game of fantasy Warhammer back on the table. So yeah, RPGs take up a lot of time. I think it's only when someone's missing that we crack out the board games, and it's always nice because we always play something. So last week we played Puerto Rico.
Oh yeah.
Well, no, it was the week before actually, Puerto Rico. Last week we actually played the Betrayal on the Hill Baldur's Gate version.
Oh right, yeah. Was that any good?
I'm not sold on it yet. Actually, I think it's a really good concept, but it's a little bit hit and miss. So the first time we played it, it was great because we were doing our explore, and then the haunt happened, and it was quite exciting. Monsters spawned everywhere. We didn't know what their objective was. We didn't even know who they were because all the haunts became under his control, and he was one of them, but we didn't know which one, so we had to try and find him, and it was quite exciting. Whereas the last time we played it, he left the room, he read his bit, he came back in, he put some things down, and then one turn later we'd found him, killed him, it was over. So, okay, so that was a bit of an anticlimax. There's not a lot you could do about it, because we just happened to find the right weapon combo. The right person found the right weapon, so they could hit him and kill him in one hit. So it's like, okay.
Is that it then?
Yeah. So
everybody go home. That was relatively easy.
Yeah. So I think it's got potential to be really good, and I like the concept. It's just that sort of hit and miss ratio of is it going to work or not. I'm not sure I like that. I'd rather play a game I know is going to work.
Is there anything you're kind of looking forward to? Kind of, you're thinking about kind of grabbing this year, or is there anything?
Mainly Kickstarter's coming up. Actually, I'm quite excited about.
Yeah,
I'm a big Batman fan, and
sweet.
I went for the Monolith Batman all in.
Oh, did you really?
All in except for the Batmobile, because I didn't like the Batmobile. It might be a really good component and fantastic gameplay, but I just didn't like the look of it. It didn't sit with me. It wasn't from any of the Batman I like. Apart from that, that's going to be pretty epic. Looking forward to that. I do play a lot of Legion as well at the moment, and they're always releasing new models for that, and that's been a lot of fun. Every time they release a new model, it's great to get them to the table and see what they can do and how they change the game.
Is that kind of, because my concern with Legion was it was going to be an on the ground based kind of X-Wing game.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what would happen basically is you'd start off with your base units, but every couple of months they'd be releasing new units, and that would effectively have a major effect potentially on the meta of the game and then how you had to play. So it kind of left the chances of you. That was my issue. My issue with X-Wing was quite simple, is that it moved from being something where the expansions added continual value and fun to where you felt they were just rolling out, here's the potato ship that appeared on the Star Wars Christmas special, do you know what I mean? Here's the extra 3 dials that it has, kind of thing. And that kind of put me off, and that was what kind of put me off with Legion, is that they kind of gave you, well, here's all the wonderful figures, and you went, Star Wars, and then you were chasing after it down the street, but then you realised you were like, actually, I've been burnt before.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Flight. I've been here before. I've got a case in my cupboard that's got, lots of lovely X-Wing models. In fact, I've got the blockade runner sitting in front of me.
Oh wow!
Right, I'll tell you what. Everyone else is going to go, but he's not. You can't do this. No, to my shame. Actually, do you know what? I kind of got got rid of the box.
Oh, right.
Because the box was wrecked, but I've kept everything else. But I was like, it's just like a bit of a, I was kind of like, I'm not going to use this. I'm not going to play this because it's like just all the rules and everything like that are just going to confuse me. However, what I will do is it looks absolutely fantastic when it's on the table. So I thought I'll just hang on and keep to that. And that was my concern with Legion. It's kind of my concern with any of the kind of the Fantasy Flight stuff.
Yeah, they did turn. It felt like at least they turned X-Wing into quite the cash cow. Where I got particularly frustrated when they released the ship. And the ship was okay. It's quite a good ship, got some nice cards with it. But to make that ship really good, you had to buy other ships which had cards that really suited your ship, but didn't come with it. And it kind of like, I don't want to buy every ship. I just want to buy the ships I got, but I really want that card that is with that Imperial ship, which I'm never going to play because I'm Rebels. So, it got frustrating. But I know people that love X-Wing, they play it every single week. So for them, they haven't been jaded by the experience at all. They absolutely love it.
Armada is the one that continuously I want to go back and revisit and play again, because I had an awful lot of fun with Armada when I played it at the time.
I've never played Armada.
It's kind of like more tactical kind of X-Wing.
Okay.
It was like the big bulky ships moving around, and they kind of like the X-Wing fighters were kind of like, they're small. There's like little swarms of like 2 or 3 of them on a stand.
Yeah.
And I don't know. This is going to sound terrible, but X-Wing for me got a bit boring sometimes, depending on who you were playing it with. You really needed a really experienced player to turn it into a tactical dogfight. Otherwise, it just came around, 3 ships chasing each other around the board.
That's true, yeah.
Kind of thing.
Which is why my best experiences playing X-Wing have always been in tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
It's like playing Overwatch in free play and playing Overwatch in competitive. When people absolutely, or any kind of online kind of video game, when people, if you play it on the actual kind of the serious ranked matches, you always seem to have better matches because these are people that have learned the characters kind of in and out, and they can really kind of have a kind of a good time. But yeah,
I think to go back to your original question, I don't feel like Legions go in that way. I think it's mainly because with X-Wing, even though they were there, like missions and environmental hazards and stuff are available, not many people actually use them. Whereas in Legion, every time you're picking like a starting position, then you're picking the environment, and then you're picking the actual objective. So each time you play it, it's going to be different. And then the more cards or the more models you buy, the more varied that becomes because more get chucked in. And because they are people, I mean, if you're a really big Star Wars fan, you'll know all the pilots in X-Wing, I'm sure. But most people will know, any sort of even entry-level Star Wars fan will know all the basic people in Legion. So it becomes much more thematic, and you do things based on what that character would do rather than what's logical sometimes. He's definitely going to fly over that and then fire his rockets. That's what he'd do.
Yeah.
He's not going to hide behind a tree, is he?
No, exactly. He's not going to stay out line of sight, is he?
Luke Skywalker. He's not going. Why would he use his pistol? He's got a lightsaber. Charge in there.
he's a man. He's a Jedi Knight, for goodness sake. Why isn't he choking everybody?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Exactly. Darth Vader. Give him choke. Yeah. Give him force lightning. Do it. Come on. If the Emperor, force lightning, everything. Your guys, their guys, doesn't matter. Force lightning every single turn.
I would just get the stormtroopers to fill up lots of water balloons, and then I would send them out, and then hit everybody with water balloons, and then I would force lightning everybody. Brilliant. Because they would all be wet, and they would shock an awful lot better. Basically, yep, that's how I would play it. Pretty much.
In the Star Wars role-playing game, you could definitely do that.
That absolutely would go out saying.
But no, Legion's good because it's much more thematic, I feel. It feels more thematic than X-Wing. But again, if you're playing with the right people, X-Wing's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And as I say, Armada for me was fantastic. It was just because you are playing huge ships going up against each other. And I don't know, it just really clicked with me it clicked with me so much that I think I wrote a review about it a couple of years ago and just said, and I gave the same arguments at the time that why I was jaded with X-Wing and why Armada was new and shiny. To be honest, I guess the other thing is that because of my experience with X-Wing, I haven't kind of gone out and I didn't go out and automatically buy everything that there was with regards to Armada, and especially I'm not buying the Avenger ship that's come out. You've seen that? It's meant to be about 2 foot long, this thing. It's about 120 quid. And I'm just like, I would just like to see that. And it's a case of, if you bought that, would you actually want to take it outside, or would you just want people to come round the house and kind of see it? I'd be interested to see how Batman plays.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to Batman.
You mentioned
there's a few things I'm looking forward to. Definitely looking forward to Batman. Definitely looking forward to. Always get it the wrong way around. Is it Untold Legends or Legends Untold?
Oh, you put me on the spot. It's Legends. I think it's Legends Untold. Yeah, it's Legends Untold.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. By Inspiring Games. I've been looking forward to that since the Kickstarter, and I'm still excited about it, even though that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's 2 years ago.
Yeah, still excited about that. And yesterday, I got Dead and Breakfast turn up.
Oh yeah, what was that like?
I'm going to crack that out this weekend and play it with my other half. I think she's going to like that because it seems quite one of those games is very simple to play, but then once you get going, it's getting those combos to get the most points out. So getting all the flowers to line up with the vines and making sure your monsters match the guests that you're getting in. It looks good. I've just had a quick look through the rule book, and it does look very accessible, actually. Yeah.
I'm interested to kind of. I mean, Kickstarter's coming up. I'm interested in Vidorian Gardens from Frank West.
Oh,
That's
right, yeah.
arriving
City of
pretty
Kings.
soon, yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
arriving soon. It's meant to be just a little. It's meant to be a little bit like King Domino, but it reviewed extremely well. I remember Polyhedron Collider kind of really, really liking it. Rory J. Summers, he really liked it as well. So I know that they sung its praises. So I'm interested in kind of seeing that. Guardian's Call from James Hudson. Druid City Games. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to be making a kind of an appearance quite soon. For me, I'd like to see the Bloodborne board game is out this year.
See, I never got a chance to play Dark Souls just because it was out of my price range when it came out. And even though I love Dark Souls as a series, it bothers me that there's so many going out for second hand. That seems like a silly thing to worry about, isn't it? But it's like every other day someone's trying to sell it. I was like, is that because it's not very good, or is it because it just doesn't get to the table often enough? Maybe it's a bit. Don't know.
There's a tail on that because the stretch goals haven't been delivered on it.
Ah.
So basically, a lot of the additional characters that were promised at the Kickstarter, they are going to be delivered, but they're part of... They had 3 waves. They had the wave 1, which is the base game, and then they had wave 2, which was the expansions that they had. So they had Darkroot expansion, they had the 4 Kings, they had a whole pile of expansions, the Gaping Dragon and everything like that they were sending out. And then at the same time, I think shortly after, they were still meant to be working on the stretch goals for coming out.
Right.
So they're still promising the stretch goals that are coming out, but...
They've released other stuff since then, haven't they?
They've been doing... They did the Resident Evil board game.
Yes, that's just been delivered, isn't it? Or being delivered now.
Yeah, and they also did the Horizon Zero Dawn board game as well.
Oh wow, okay. But that's going to leave a bad taste in people's mouth if they haven't got the original stuff. So.
So I'm interested to see. I think the thing with Dark Souls is people are still waiting for stretch goals, which meant when they were looking at Horizon Zero Dawn, I think a lot of people kind of went, I'm not sure, because how difficult can it be to be moulding and creating kind of figures that you're not really sculpting them. You've pretty much got the kind of this. You've kind of got the source material there. So what's the kind of the hold up? So I think there's a lot of people just saying, do you know what? It's a big box. It needs house ruled.
Oh, I see.
It's not. It's very, very random. As in, I think the thing about Dark Souls, and I mean, you'll know as well as I know it. I don't know how much you play Dark Souls or have played it. I've put hundreds of hours into Dark Souls.
Yeah.
So I can play through the game if I wanted to, in my head. If I had nothing to do and I was absolutely bored, I could probably play through at least the first half of the game very, very easily, knowing where everything was. And I think the issue with the Dark Souls board game was it introduced an element of random items, which you would pick up an item, but you weren't necessarily strong enough.
Right, okay. So you weren't always picking up things suitable to the level that you're at.
Yes. So you had to spend souls in order to buy an item, but you had to spend souls in order to level up your champion as well.
Yeah, so it's almost worth never buying
undead, yeah. So if you shuffled the deck incorrectly, you could end up pulling, when you did search or you got your treasure or whatever, you could end up pulling 3 or 4 items which you couldn't actually use anyway because they were maybe the wrong class, or you just couldn't use them because you just didn't have the right strength. And so there was a lot of, I know personally what I did is I stacked the deck into 3 or 4 different piles. And then what I did is, as I leveled up, I moved the deck, so I knew I was getting, just like in the game, I was able to wield the better and bigger weaponry as I needed to go.
Right.
So that's how I kind of worked with that. So that's how that worked, which I think it worked kind of well. But I think there's just too many. There's too many people that feel jaded by it. The Bloodborne board game, on the other hand, that is going to be Eric Lang.
Yeah.
and he didn't do a good. Okay, I don't think he did a good job with the card game.
No, I've not
it was
heard much
3-player.
about it.
It didn't work that well. I'm excited for the board game because in terms of other things that he's done, like Godfather remains very, very high on my list for its playability. A lot of Eric Lang stuff out there I absolutely adore. So I'm interested to see what he does with this and how he plays it. But how close he stays to
Chaos in the Old World? Chaos of the Old World?
Yes.
It's still one of my favourites.
Yes. It's absolutely. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I'm very, very conscious of the time, sir. So because
that's gone quick.
Yeah.
Have you actually spoken about anything yet? We've got some things covered. Yeah.
We've got some things covered. It's all good.
We didn't talk about biscuits at all. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I think everybody's had enough of biscuits. I think
I did actually,
by the time this goes out,
I did go out and buy a big bag of custard creams.
Well, there you go. Well, I'm glad I'm helping kind of expand waistlines across the UK,
Absolutely.
which is always a good thing.
Christmas was definitely a time of fasting.
What's the timetable for Sumo Gnomes then? Where are you going with that?
Well, I'm being cautious with it because I want to make sure I'm not jumping the gun, because I'm also going back to social media presence and everything else. No one really knows about it yet because it didn't exist 3 months ago. So I don't know whether it would be fruitless to take a game that no one's heard of to Kickstarter by October, or whether I can really sort of do something which I'm not very good at, which is spend a lot of time on social media and various other ventures to try and actually get the awareness out there and get the buzz going so that when October comes about, there's enough people interested. I'm not sure how to do it yet, but in an ideal world, if I feel like there's enough buzz around it, then I'd probably take it to Kickstarter in October, maybe end of September.
Well, I mean, you've got your backers from Summoner's Isle.
I'm incredibly grateful for what's happened there, but I don't want to expect that even if 10% of those decided to back Sumo Gnomes, I'd be really happy and actually mildly surprised, to be fair, because I was surprised that anyone backed in the first place. So it's always going to take me by surprise. But
shouldn't be too hard on yourself. But no, I mean,
if it all goes well, then it will be a couple of months or a month after. September, October. That's what I'm thinking in my head at the moment. I'm getting quotes in at the moment, just so I know how much I could potentially retail it for. I'd like it to be able to be sold for £10, because I think that fits really well with a game you can you don't worry about spending £10 on something you can put in your pocket and take everywhere, really, because you know you're going to get your money's worth out of it. And it doesn't matter. You can take it out in the pub and not be too precious about it. Oh, I spilled some beer on the dice. Doesn't matter. It's fine.
It doesn't matter. It's all good.
And I can always make different options for it because it's kind of an open. Because it's quite simple. I could always make available a selection of different. I'm going to say this wrong. Not dojo, is it? Dojo. The actual arena area. I could make a selection of them and just put them all on the website so people can just download them and print out different settings if they wish. That's what I'd like to go for. If I can keep it around the £10 mark and get everything ready by end of July, so I'm ready for the Kickstarter. So this time around, I was still getting graphics made 2 weeks before the Kickstarter went live. Whereas I'd like to be a bit more prepared this time. I know I won't be, but I'd like to be more prepared. You never know. But I'd also like to have a full prototype, or as close as I can get, of Death by Dungeon ready for UK Games Expo. Yeah. So by UK Games Expo, I'll have Summoner's Isle, I'll have Sumo Gnomes pretty much ready, and Death by Dungeon getting feedback. That would be the ideal scenario.
I better let you go then, so you can crack on.
And congratulations on your Kickstarter, though. That's gone really well.
Oh, I I just,
it's been a real chuckle. Every time you do an update, it brings a smile. It's great. It's been good to follow.
I didn't want to be too serious. I'm kind of like, I'm kind of, as I put in the last update, I kind of went, I feel like a bit of a fraud because I'm not actually sending anybody anything. It's kind of like get uncomfortable when people kind of say, oh, it's doing really, really well. And it's like, yeah, but I'm not, I've invented this whole thing just to ask people to help me, kind of not keep the podcast going, but kind of make it easier to do and more accessible, and to because that was one of the things. So it's like, yeah, it's just kind of one of those weird things that I didn't I put the level where it was because I didn't expect it where to get to, and then after the first kind of 12 hours when it funded, I was like going, I don't know what to do now. Somebody help me. It was quite scary.
You're definitely offering something back. I mean, everyone knows what they're backing, and it just is going to improve layer up an already established thing that you've got going. So people know that, and I think they're probably looking forward to seeing what you're going to do. And just know it's nice to know that it's going to continue as well, because a lot of good podcasts have disappeared over the years, where it's like, well, we can't really afford to do it anymore. We've got to carry on with life and stuff.
It was either this or it was 300 hours community service or doing this. so so kids, don't shoplift, just saying, because you'll end up having to do like a tabletop podcast like me. I'm just saying. If people want to keep an eye on you, to see what happens with all of this flourish of projects that you seem to be going to be putting out there, where do we find you on the interweb nets?
Best places. I mean, not that it's very easy to spell, but I'm on Facebook under Peculiarity UK. Mm-hmm. There's the Peculiarity website, which obviously I don't update as much as the Facebook page. I'm on Twitter quite a lot, and on Instagram, and that's under a different name, just because I'm going to keep that more personal. So it'll be projects that I'm working on, games that I've played, family stuff, food that I may have cooked, and stuff like that. But on Twitter and Instagram, they're both Gumley, Gumley.
Cool.
So that's about it, really. Keep it simple. So Gumley and Peculiarity.
I will. I'll probably just do a Control C, Control V from the last time you were on, Robbie. I'm not going to lie. I'm just like that. I'll just copy the. Who reads the show notes anyway? I'll just copy the whole lot over. Obviously I'll put them in the show notes so that we have notes to show. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, and the Kickstarter will have finished by the time this is out. Yeah. So, big thank you to everybody. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for everybody who I'm not very good at this. Thank you very much for everybody who backed us and supported us. But if you want to continue to keep an eye on what we're up to, then go to Twitter, and go to Facebook, and go to YouTube, and go to Instagram, and search for We're Not Wizards, and you'll find us there. You can go to all the various podcast catchers, like your Stitcher and Spreaker and Acast and Castbox and Podknife and Podbean, who are our podcast hosts, and they're absolutely fantastic. You can find us on Apple Podcasts as well. And if you do like what you've heard tonight, there's two things you can do. Just tell someone else. We get most of our listeners through kind of word of mouth and small bribes. And, small bribes cost money. And if you send it to your friends, send it to your enemies, if you do, think somebody would like listening to the show, then send us our way. If you like us even more, then consider going to Apple Podcasts and dropping us a subscription, or dropping us a rating or a review. And as we say, don't give us 10 stars because makes us big-headed, but don't give us 1 star because it makes us cry. And I'm 44 now, and the more I cry, the worse I look. I look like a melted candle when I cry. So give us something in the middle, like a 5, because it's average. We're just a little bit average. But the person who's not been average tonight is rather wonderful, rather fantastic. Mr. Robbie Munn! Yay! Round of applause from whatever. There's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Robbie?
Definitely not.
And the second thing to do is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Robbie. Say goodbye, Robbie.
Take care.
And he didn't say goodbye, Robbie.
I know.
There you go. I am amazed. I'm astounded. I'm surprised. I'm slightly kind of confused now. And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe. Roll 6s. And if you miss the Summoner's Isle, then keep an eye for little gnomes playing sumo against each other, or maybe a dungeon. But until the next time, goodbye.
Bye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.